Hi, ladies and gentlemen, and Christoph the Polish Geek welcomes you to another top list, a list of top 5 best heavily Italian pieces of entertainment, and it can range from like movies, TV shows to video games, etc. Because it's also gonna be a very unique list, because I don't think any other YouTuber came up with something like that. I guess if you start digging deep, then I guess you probably could find someone who made a similar list, but any of the more like famous YouTubers, I doubt they would ever come up with something like that. But if there ever was a country of beauty and culture, it would be Italy. And Italy could also be considered an embodiment of European culture, history, and beauty. Like it used to be a center of the Roman Empire in ancient times, and now it's also a center of the Roman Catholic Church, and combined with a really delicious cuisine, my favorite in the world actually, and I'm gonna call it right now, Italian food is the best, and food is better in Italy than it is anywhere else in the world. Come at me! And also really beautiful churches and castles, some really beautiful nature, and really amazing architecture, and you have a beautiful nation of Italy. A nation, as I said, of beauty, culture, and rich history. And I actually even been to Italy a couple of times in the past. I wish I could revisit someday again, but really gotta find more time and cash for that. But sometimes you just can't stop pondering the beauty and rich culture and history of the beautiful country of Italy. And so I decided to compose this list of 5 best pieces of entertainment heavily Italian themed. And as I said, it includes movies, video games, TV shows, anything. And it's not Italian produced, just has to feature heavily Italian themes. It can be produced anywhere else in the world actually. In fact, I don't think any of the 5 things you'll see on this list was actually produced in Italy, but they feature such heavily Italian themes that perhaps you could say they have more respect for the beauty of Italy than most actually Italian productions. And also, just having an Italian character is not enough for it to be on the list. Like, the story ideally should be set in Italy, and even if it's not, it still has to have a huge, gigantic effect on the story, such as a story about Italian immigrants in the United States is very welcome on the list, and one of those things is actually on the list. Perhaps some of you already are speculating what that is. And the one more thing is, when you look at my channel analytics, it doesn't seem I have almost any viewers from Italy, which is shame, but it seems like most of my viewers are from United States and Poland, which I guess is natural. But I'll tell you this, if you are though from Italy and you're watching me, then I'll tell you, Italy is a really beautiful country with a really rich history, rich culture, beautiful architecture, full of beautiful castles and churches, and as I said, the most delicious cuisine in the world. So let's get to it. Here are the 5 best pieces of heavily Italian themed entertainment. So coming in number 5 is Pixar's Luca. This is one of the more recent Pixar entries, and a really good one, because I constantly keep saying on my channel that in contrast to Disney, it seems like Pixar does actually care about making quality animated movies for the families. It's just that Disney has them on their leash, and as a result, it's very difficult for them. But when Disney actually does give them complete freedom of their project, then you get a really good quality animated movie for the whole family, like Luca. And the story is about those 2 boy monsters who live under the sea next to the coast of Sicily, and then they go on the shore and turn into humans, and the whole story takes place in Sicily. And the animation is splendid, featuring really beautiful Sicilian architecture combined with a really engaging and interesting story, and you have a really good entry from the Pixar studios. And the scene with Treneto pesto is so appetizing. Actually, I actually really love that dish. But overall, Luca is a really good Pixar movie. As I said, it entirely takes place in Sicily. Silenzio Bruno! And features a really beautiful Sicilian setting that truly feels like transports you to the beautiful region of Sicily. And if you are a Pixar fan and want some heavily Italian story by Pixar, then Luca is your choice. Number 4, and lots of people who are watching this video likely argue that this should be number 1, but it's my list, but it's actually the favorite movie of both of my parents, and that's The Godfather. And even though the story is mostly set in America, to say it doesn't have Italian themes would just be being delusional, because the story is about an Italian-American mafia family, Corleone, and their Italian heritage, you could argue, is basically the main thesis of the whole movie, actually. And in some ways you can say that this is a movie that very much contrasts American and European culture, Italian mostly, but as I just said in the beginning of the video, you can argue Italy is an embodiment of Europe in many ways, but like in many ways it's also the story that basically teaches that remembering and revisiting your roots is very important. Like Michael Corleone actually goes to Sicily and revisits his Italian roots and realizes how much it means a lot to him. In many ways you can basically say that this is just as much an Italian story as this is an American story, probably even more Italian actually. And it also had 2 sequels, The Godfather Part 2 and then The Godfather 3, with some people calling it the death of Michael Corleone. But I gotta say that lots of people don't like The Godfather 3, but I have to disagree. It's nowhere near as good as the first 2 movies in the series, but I still think it's basically a very nice epilogue. In some ways I view it in the same way as Francis Ford Coppola. The first 2 movies are basically one story, and then the third one is basically an epilogue, but I strongly disagree that The Godfather 3 is bad. Like, other than Sofia Coppola's terrible acting, I say it's a very great movie that very much complements the first 2 and serves as a really nice epilogue. So, again, lots of people would say that this should be number 1, but it's my list, and I put The Godfather at number 4. Number 3, and what best heavily Italian entertainment list would be complete without Assassin's Creed 2, likely the best Assassin's Creed game, because the Assassin's Creed franchise is objectively at a terrible place right now. Like, haven't played Shadows, haven't touched it actually, won't ever, but even before that, it was already heavily divisive. Like, Assassin's Creed Unity might actually be my second favorite in the franchise, only behind 2 that we are talking about, but still it was very much detested upon the launch. And some people, on the other hand, also heavily dislike the RPG ones. I personally really love Origins and Odyssey, not a huge fan of Valhalla. It's kind of the open world is bland and the main character is boring, but we're going off on a tangent really, because if there is an Assassin's Creed game, then almost any fan and any gamer can agree that is a great game, it's Assassin's Creed 2. And this game is very heavily Italian, full of Italian themes, taking place in Italian Renaissance and heavily immersing the player in the setting and time period, and then taking place in many different Italian cities during Renaissance, including Florence, and then village in Tuscany as well as Venice, and then ending up in Rome. And combined also with all the characters being Italian and even some famous historical Italian figures appearing, like Leonardo da Vinci, for example. And then also there is plenty of Italian architecture all around, and the cities are nicely, and the Renaissance Italian cities are nicely and beautifully recreated and fully immersing the player in a setting, as well as even all the characters having Italian accents, and the main character being called Ezio Auditore di Firenze. But yes, if you want a heavily Italian video game, then look no further than Assassin's Creed 2. Like, as I said, the game is amazing and has such an amazing story. Number 2, and this time it's a tie between Disney's animated Pinocchio as well as Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and this was a really tough choice because I so much love both of these movies, and both are actually among my favorite animated movies of all time. Like, if you've seen my top 15 favorite animated movies list, I made like over a year ago at this point, but both of those movies, I guarantee you, were in the top 5 and still very much are, because it's really... But I decided that, considering that ultimately at the end of the day both are adaptations of an classic Italian novel by Carlo Collodi, why not just tie them up? And yes, because I love both of those animated movies so much. But if I had to say which one is though more heavily Italian though, I guess I'll go with the Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, because it's far more grounded and taking place in actual fascistic Italy period during real life history, and then featuring such a beautiful Italian architecture and really stellar animation. So yes, both of those are really amazing, fantastic animated movies. But which one is better? Tough to say. Which one is more heavily Italian themed? I guess Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, but I very much recommend both of those movies. But I also recommend to just read original Carlo Collodi, Italian Carlo Collodi Pinocchio book. I guess while we're on the subject, I guess I'll also give a shout out to a 2019 Italian adaptation, which actually is by far the most faithful to the book. It's practically a retelling of the original story from the book, but personally I prefer these two animated movies, even if the 2019 live action version is objectively the most faithful to the book. But I still recommend it, especially that Roberto Benigni as Geppetto is just fantastic. And at number 1, my favorite story in entertainment with heavily Italian themes is... Come on, I think you all figured out if you've been watching me for a while, and that's Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5 Golden Wind. And like, yeah, you don't get more Italian than that. Like, anything in this story just screams Italy, because Hiroko Araki is generally fascinated by Italian culture, and almost in every Jojo part he just has to include something Italian, such as Jonathan's mentor being from Italy, and then having an Italian chef in Morio cooking Italian meals. But in part 5 he chose to give it all and fully set the story in Italy, combined with Italian characters, and then going from all places all over Italy. As I just said, this story, it just screams Italy all over the place. And it's basically a Godfather style gangster story, with the main character being Giorno Giovanna, who joins a Passione Mafia and then embarks on a quest to defeat an evil boss. And then the story takes place in so many different places in Italy, including Venice, Capri Island, Naples, that's actually where it starts, Sardinia Island, and then ending up in Rome. And the way that all the Italian architecture and all the famous places are recreated is just beautiful, because this isn't just drawn to just resemble those cities, because almost every location is actually feels like the creators actually very much went to those places and recreate them in animation as beautifully and as authentically as possible. Because I actually been to Rome and Venice and Capri Island actually. Those are the 3 places I've been to, and I can tell you, it very much looks authentic. It pretty much looks how it does in real life, which is so impressive. But it's also amazing how anytime the gang arrives at those places, the narrator always gives some really interesting real life history about those places. And as I said, everything is drawn to such a detail, as well as even Golden Wind also features some delicious Italian cuisine, such as, for example, the trattoria that the gang frequently eats actually. But nothing screams more Italy than Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. This is just as this is as Italian as you can get. So, ladies and gentlemen, here are my 5 favorite Italian themed pieces of entertainment. And funnily, none of them really are Italian produced, but I say they scream Italy far louder than almost any Italian production. Granted, there are plenty of Italian productions I haven't actually seen, so I gotta admit that, but overall, anytime I play Assassin's Creed 2 or watch Jojo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind, or either of the 2 Pinocchio movies, especially Guillermo del Toro's actually, or Luca, I just wish I could come back to Italy someday and again experience the beautiful culture and just see the beautiful castles and churches, or just eat Italian food all day without stopping, because, as I said, Italian food is the best. And again, if there is a country of beauty and culture, it'll be Italy. And you don't need to look further than those 5 pieces of entertainment I just presented to you. But I guarantee you, if you ever watch or play any of those things I listed, then you just want to visit Italy again, like I do, actually. Again, gotta find finances and time for that, but I really wish I could revisit Italy once again someday, because in the past I've been plenty of times. So, again, thank you ladies and gentlemen for checking out this video. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and do you know any fantastic pieces of entertainment with heavily Italian themes? If you do know, then let me know in the comments. And talk to you later. Bye!